Segment 2, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at www.ntnm.org. Community Policing, caps24.org. It is a pleasure, it is a too rare a pleasure to be able to present a journalist to you. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to pick up the News Star, the best reason to pick up the News Star is I want to see what my next guest wrote, besides for the fact that he writes the most prosaic, flowing, colorful police blotter that I've ever read. He's also a pretty good reporter who gets his facts straight and actually understands what he's looking at, which not all reporters do. And we're talking about, as far as I'm concerned, the ace reporter of the News Star, Mark Schipper. Mark, how you doing?
Avi, I love your introductions. Thank you.
My pleasure, and it's a pleasure to have you, and thank you. So how long have you been with the News Star?
I started with the News Star in December of 2010, which was about 2 months after I'd moved to Chicago from Los Angeles. So I've been there a little while now.
And how you liked it?
It's been a great way to get to know the city of Chicago. I've met a lot of movers and shakers, and I've been able to learn my craft as a writer, which in order to do that, you have to have space to write in. So I've had space to do that. It's been great.
Which is cool. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying, I can really, when I read the police blotter, I can really picture what's going on. And not only that, you usually pick interesting things within. Not just the usual whatever. It's sort of like something that's like, huh?
I'm glad you noticed that. That's what I try to do. It was one of the ways I talked my way into the police departments, which reporters had been essentially banned from when I started at the newspapers.
Yes, thanks to one of your predecessors who was a very open mouth about private information.
Absolutely. They
and not to mention did creative writing instead of
She was mentioned by name when I interviewed with the commander and other people in the station. So yeah, she had definitely established a poor reputation for reporters. But that's what I try to do in the blotters. I pick out symbols. I pick out things that I think stand for crime and the kind of people who commit crime. And I try to praise the police force as much as possible. Not so much, florid, flowery praise, but saying what really happened. Those officers go into places that citizens run from, and they do a lot of good work. So it's been a pleasure being at the police departments, and they've been fun to write. Crime's fun to write about.
Yeah, actually, we do have a really lot of good policemen here, and that's without just being a camps guy. Believe me, if I didn't think that was true, I wouldn't have their backs.
Yeah.
But I do. They're really kind of cool people. By the way, it's also nice that I'm able to get the News Star a little easier than I used to.
Oh, good.
And at more places, because it's a pain in the ass sometimes to try to get it.
Yeah, I talk to our distribution people as much as I can and try and make sure we have enough copies where people want to get them. But if you're having trouble getting physical copies, we have started a Facebook page at Inside Booster and News Star. So if you want to get them online and you happen to miss that week's distribution, go on Facebook, and the blotters are there. Mine and Pat Butler's, and all of our reporters' articles are there too. So you can find everything there.
Which is really cool, and by the way, very handy. And I have actually looked up stuff, and it's a very worthwhile thing. But I do try to pick up a physical copy. I'm one of these people that just used to holding real newspapers in my hand. So I kind of like that.
That's my way.
So, what other kind of things do you cover? What do you like to cover?
I like things that have some action to them. I like things where I can describe things going on. I don't mind a city hall story or a political story or things where I can get the voices of aldermen and the people who run this town in articles. I don't mind that, but I like getting people out on the streets and trying to make them see and hear and feel what happened, which I think is the most memorable news reporting, when you can feel like you were there and have that experience for yourself. So I like that, and I also like writing about just from time to time about gangster stuff, the old prohibition stuff. I've had a few things recently on Machine Gun Jack McGurn, and hopefully we'll interview Deirdre Capone, who was Al Capone's niece.
Really?
Who just wrote a new book, and she's making the rounds, and that's colorful stuff to write for the newspaper, so I like doing that too.
That is cool. That's definitely cool. Do you write very many stories about Rogers Park and West Rogers Park other than the police blotter? Or?
Try to, yeah. Joe Moore has been is an excellent alderman for reporters because he's very accessible.
Yeah, he is.
He gave out his personal number, I think the second time I met him, and said, if you have anything you need for a story, give me a call. I call him, and he'll get back to me within a day or two every time. So anytime Joe Moore is doing something, good or bad, if there's something negative that Joe Moore's been associated with, he'll speak up for himself there too. And we're more than happy to give any alderman the space they need to defend their positions. Other than that, Rogers Park is an interesting area. Yeah, I anything that happens up here with, anything. I'm open to Rogers Park. Rogers Park it's a fun place. It's a colorful place.
Definitely. What is the actual coverage area of the News Star?
The News Star is loose boundaries are Howard Street in the north, so the very far end of the city, to Montrose is basically the cutoff place for the News Star. It fluctuates a little bit east to west. The river is the general boundary on the western side, and the lakefront on the eastern side. And then below that, we have the inside booster, which covers from Montrose Street south all the way to the Chicago River downtown.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good range. And by the way, it's a good thing. When first it was a learner paper way before your time, then it was Pioneer.
Yeah.
And then they sold it to whoever it was.
Ron
afterwards.
Rennick bought it. Yeah.
And we really thought it was going to go down the drain. And actually, at one point, due to the reporter covering the neighborhood that preceded you, some of us were actually would think it was a better idea for it to die rather than continue.
Is this the one we were talking about earlier?
Yes,
that
this is
particular
exactly
part?
this is the one that Sonny always thought was on psychomedication.
You know what? She'd have to deny it and prove it to me to prove she wasn't, because she had her problems.
Well, let's put it this way. She would see me at an event. I'd be filming. She would, without talking to me, tell people if they wanted to catch it, she could watch it on my show. And actually, that particular time, we were actually paid privately to do that particular gig. And then when she found out that I did that gig, I did it for a branch of government, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
We were filming it for, and we never presented it as our own show. She started this whole big thing. It's like, how come the government's giving Avi Meyers X? By the way, it was only like $1,500.
Yeah.
And I had to pay Sonny and all my costs out of it, too.
Broke even at best.
Pardon?
Broke even at best.
Well, no, I made a little bit of money.
A couple bucks? Okay.
Yeah, I made enough to buy at least a couple of chocolate bars and
There you go.
maybe a bottle of Jim Beam, but not Jack.
What the best a reporter can hope for, right?
Pretty much. But it was, that wasn't really reporting. That was actually just a physical filming job. I wish more people still called us for physical filming jobs. But she never bothered to check her facts. And that's one of the reasons why I was glad somebody like you came in, because you helped build a safe net again. Because not just that, but there's so many people look at blogs, and there are so many irresponsible bloggers, like almost every single last one of them. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's very hard to be able to actually find decent things over there. Now, you've actually done some editing there too, haven't you?
Yeah, yes, I have several issues, and actually I'll be editing again the end of May and the first week of June in back-to-back weeks. So the editing's all just part of the experience, editing other writers and deciding what content makes a newspaper provides more insight than any classroom ever could in terms of what you think should get in front of people's eyes and what they need to know as news. So, yeah, I have edited and I like it.
I'm glad you said that, because the fact of the matter is I learned both in radio and in newspapers that I probably, even though I did learn a lot in school, I learned more the first 2 weeks of actual work than I learned in the classroom.
Yeah.
It really fits. No, you're not actually a journalism graduate, are you?
No, I'm not. I studied history in college, and I did that because that was the only way I was going to get through college. I didn't want to go to school. I would have liked to have started as a cub reporter, like Mark Twain did, and Stephen Crane, and all my writing heroes. Most didn't finish high school. And
Mike Reichel has 2 weeks, by the way, of junior college.
2 weeks of junior college. The best writers almost invariably stopped short with their formal education. And Mark Twain's famous line, "I never let my schooling get in the way of my education," was I always felt that way. And so history, I read the books anyway, and it gave me an opportunity to live in an interesting place and get a degree, which everyone says you have to get a job these days. So
it's not a bad idea. Not that anybody's ever seen mine. You got a minute and a half. What would you like to cover?
You know what? I'll say that our newspapers, for those of us who don't know them, are excellent community newspapers for the north side of Chicago. They probably cover every week more specific issues than the Tribune and Sun-Times combined. They just don't have the reporters or the people on the street to cover the news like we do. So, I mean, if you're interested in the neighborhoods you live in across the north side, like I said, with the river being the western boundary, pick up our newspapers. And for businesses, they're a great place to advertise because we keep the real estate listings. So a lot of professional people pick those newspapers up for listings exclusively. And, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the quality of our newspapers.
No, I happen to agree. And you know what? I've actually talked to one of the other writers who's covered various stories, and we've chatted back and forth on things. And also Pat Butler. I mean, you've got some pretty responsible, good people over there. So it's a nice mix of actually capable reporters that actually know how to get things straight.
Absolutely. I think Pat Butler's been at it since, what, about 1960? 1965?
Oh, I thought it was 1860 or 1865.
Hey, it could be. I mean, he's just an old pro, and he's really the workhorse.
By the way, until that Reader article, I didn't even know what he looked like because the picture they used to run of him in Lerner was probably his bar mitzvah picture.
Yeah, you said that. You said that. Yeah, he's
But he's a very skilled reporter. There's no question about it. At this point, I want to thank you very much, Mark Schipper, ace reporter of the News Star. And I hope you'll come back because, I like the idea of just talking about reporting and stuff, but at least the first time around, just an introduction to you and an introduction to the newspaper. And pick up the News Star. I try to make it a point whenever I can to get it. Otherwise, check it out on Facebook online.
Appreciate it, Avi.
Thank you, Mark. Good
Great
luck.
being on. Thank you.